What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Football Game Show brought to you by Front Yard Fantasy here on Better Sports Network. I'm your host, Simon, here on this beautiful Monday, joined by my equally, if not more beautiful co-hosts, Joey Wright and John Luke Garofalo. What's up, boys?
What up?
What's going on?
You guys only get glasses, Joey, for a couple more days, so enjoy it. Joining us today, rocking the glasses a little better than anybody else on the stream, is our friend Jeremy Popielarz. For those of you that do not know Jeremy, you can find him on Twitter at PopesFFH. He is a fantasy football analyst over at FTN and the host of the FTN Dynasty podcast. Jeremy, thanks so much for taking the time to come on with us today.
Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I always love coming on the show. I was on it, I think, last year? And that was a lot of fun. So I'm excited. We're going to have a mock draft today, so that's pretty fun. Hopefully they already know that. If they don't, sorry that I busted it. But
Jeremy!
Come on.
But I'm excited, so I appreciate having me on.
We love mock drafts, and it's time to get the redraft mock started. We've been doing mostly Dynasty, but we got that first redraft one coming here. If you've been doing best ball, you've been flexing that muscle a little bit, but this is just a little bit different. Jeremy, we got Craig in here fact-checking and validating further what you said. You were on last year, September 30th, 2021, playing some Fantasy Fortune.
I remember it was Fantasy Fortune, and I remember it was rigged. I do remember that.
Yeah, that sounds
right.
I
think JL, I think you won for like the first time ever.
Definitely rigged. Yeah, no,
I think that was. If I remember correctly, I could be off base, but I do think that was it.
Did you ever get your Venmo for throwing it to JL, or did we not send that over? We'll make sure to get that.
No, I didn't get that. So,
man.
We'll make sure we're all squared up after this. We got Dustin in here, says over under 3.5 times. Simon asks someone a question while they are on the clock.
Under. Give me the under.
You're taking the under? You believe in me?
Yeah, I believe in you. 3.5
on Friday
is a
night
high
mock.
line.
What?
So 3.5 is a high line.
That is a high line, actually.
There's 144 picks in this draft. There's 100 and
Yeah,
I guess I could ask myself a question. We'll see if we get it in there. Tim's taking the over on that one. Easy. It is my specialty. We got Sully in here ready for a mock draft with us. What's up, Sully? Maria in the chat saying hello. Hello, Maria. And Jay saying good afternoon to all the FYFers out there. What's up, Jay? We got Dame in the chat. Hi, beautiful people. Hello, beautiful Dame. Welcome in. And Dustin said this revolving jail filming locations is something. Can't tell if I like it or not. He's on a world tour. World speaking tour.
This is my favorite. When JL popped in, I was like, ooh, I like that white brick wall. I was actually thinking of doing a white brick wall instead of the movies again, but staying.
But the movies were really hard to turn into bricks, so we went with movies.
I tried every which way. I tried turning them side, and it just didn't look right.
We got Cal in here. What's up, Calvin? Says,
what's up, Cal?
My guys and
What
Scampers,
up,
our favorite chat cat.
Meow.
What's up, FYF? Welcome in, Scampers. Well, guys, we're going to get into our mock draft here shortly. Swamp jumping in here, who's going to be drafting with us, is at work, and it's
so hot. I can't even imagine in New Orleans. It's so hot here.
I'm Swamp. I'm with you. I feel like seasonal depression usually hits in the winter, but I get it in the summer here in San Antonio because it's too hot to go outside. I'm just I just want to sit inside my house all the time. I step outside and it's 100 degrees with 60% humidity. I'll just take my socks off and stay inside. And Swamp said, no time for crying, just sweating.
That's right. Gotta preserve that water.
Well, I'm glad you're not crying at work, at least today. Well, guys, we are going to get into our mock draft here shortly.
Yeah.
Before we do that, a couple reminders. First and foremost, if you are not already following our guest Jeremy on Twitter, go and remedy that immediately. You can find him on Twitter at PopesFFH. It is right there below his handsome face on the screen. Or if you're watching on the Better Sports Network or Front Yard Fantasy YouTube, the link's going to be in the description to that video as well. You can just click on it. After you do that, if you are watching us on the Front Yard Fantasy or BSN YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's the easiest way to show your support for what we're doing. And if you hit the little notification bell, you will make sure. Are you making fun of me?
No.
Okay, it's fine. I just wanted to check in the middle of it. You'll make sure you never miss us live at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And I hope Scott Fish is in the chat because he asks every single day. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we've got some fantasy football pub trivia coming your way. You can play along in the BSN app. You'll answer your questions live. Joey wrote 30 questions. Joey, what's the theme for tonight's game of BetterCast?
I spared no expense writing the questions tonight. It's Jurassic Park.
Woo!
Ooh.
So we got some Jurassic Park X NFL trivia coming your way tonight. That's 8 p.m. Eastern time. You can watch here on the Front Yard Fantasy YouTube channel, on the Better Sports Network YouTube channel, or right there in the app where you're going to be playing that game. You need the app to play along, so go ahead and get that downloaded.
We'll see if any clever girls show up tonight. Nailed it.
Good Jurassic Park joke. Well, guys,
No,
we're going to get
it's not.
into our mock draft here. I'm going to go ahead and pull
Let's
this
go.
up. All four of us are going to be drafting today. I got that first overall pick. Jeremy is right after me. And then JL, I believe you're down there at the end of the draft, pick 12.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Joey is pick 4.
Caboose.
So we got 3 of us here near the beginning. And then JL picking it up there at the end. I'm going to go ahead and start the draft. And I've got the first pick.
Where are you going to go with?
I'm going to go with a player. I'm going to go with, it's probably pretty obvious. It is SuperFlex, what we're doing here. So quarterbacks come at a premium. I'm going to take a quarterback here, and I'm going to take the quarterback that scored the most fantasy points per game last season through his 15 games. And I'm going to take Jalen Hurts as the first overall pick in redraft.
Fancy.
In Dynasty, I do just have more security and trust in Patrick Mahomes. We've seen it more years. I'm going to take him. But in redraft, with the rushing upside a guy like Jalen Hurts presents, I've got no issues taking him as the first quarterback off the board. But now Jeremy's on the clock.
I'm going to take Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen still should be 1 overall, my personal opinion. A little bit of a homer pick, being here in Buffalo. But I do think that Josh Allen is primed to kind of continue what he's done the last few seasons and just kind of be near that top tier, whether it's first or second in fantasy points overall for the season. Last year, we kind of saw him even have a really good fantasy season, despite having that slightly torn UCL or exactly what he was having going on there with his elbow, and kind of an offense that kind of went off the rails a little bit. I know there's some worry that they say he's not going to run as much, but with James Cook and let's be honest, I mean, Damian Harris isn't always that healthy. I still think that Josh Allen in the red zone is going to be just as good as Jalen Hurts, probably going to be up there again, scoring rushing touchdowns inside the 5. And I think this offense gets even better if that's possible in the second year under Dorsey. So
how much of a homer pick can a player like Josh Allen really be? Like, I get he's on your team, but he's Josh freaking Allen. Like that's hardly a homer pick.
Exactly. And it's just like, it just seems like he should be up there in most super flex drafts, but I can't fault you with either Hurts or Mahomes. So I like all 3 of those together, whoever.
Those are the 3 guys that I'm fine with any of those 3 being the first overall pick in Superflex redraft. Joey, you grabbed Burrow there at 4. Is that is he in that same tier as those other 3 guys to you, or is there maybe a tier break before Joe Burrow?
It's a tier break for me. But I took the 4 spot. I was one of the first people to pop in the draft today, so I get my pick of the litter of spots. And I'm usually drafting towards the end, kind of where JL's at. And I want to try something different because, heading into redraft season, I'm going to get to bounce all around in different draft spots. So I've been doing the 8 spot a lot lately, so I wanted to try something different. And listen, I'm happy getting Joe Burrow at 104. It's who I expected to be there. Brocow made it a little exciting for me, wondering if he was going to take Burrow and I'd get Mahomes. Maybe he would slip to 4, but no.
Pull JL and Scott Fishbowl last year, grabbing Patrick Mahomes with the 4th overall pick, you punk.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
He just slipped to you. You got to snag him.
Yeah,
JL's almost on the clock. I was about to ask him a question. Jeremy, is Joe Burrow the 4th guy for you after those 3?
I think so. I was in on it last year too, and I still feel like Lamar Jackson is a guy that like people just constantly overlook as far as like fantasy goes. I think that he's primed to be very good in this Todd Monken offense, especially if they do pass a little bit heavier. If J.K. Dobbins is healthy, I know that there's now obviously some concerns with some stuff coming out about his knee still. But either way, whether they have Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, they can still run the ball with all 3 of those guys. And I just think that Jackson is still like close to being like outside of like, I don't think Burrow could be the QB1 for fantasy
100%.
Ever. Like, I think he's a top 5 guy consistently, but like Jackson could be the one, like QB1 overall. He still has that upside. So for me, I go back and forth with Burrow and Jackson. But if I was on the clock, I probably would have taken Joe Burrow just for the safety. I feel like there's a little bit more passing volume, a little bit safer type of play, I think, out of him than maybe Jackson.
I love the point you brought up about Lamar Jackson's upside, though, being just he's got a higher roof than Joe Burrow does whenever you look at their skill sets. Lamar Jackson can be that number one overall quarterback, but it's been a minute since we've seen it come together. Whereas Joe Burrow, I'm with you. I'm confident what we're going to get next year. And when you've got weapons like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd as the third best receiver on your team, your floor is pretty safe there as well.
And I think like Joey took him a little early at 1.4, you could quote and say, but like where you get him average, like at 6 or 7, like that's really good value. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that Joey's wrong at 4, but like
I'm never wrong. I'm always
no,
right.
I know. I understand that. I get you. But like, I just feel like most drafts, you'll see him kind of fall at 6. I feel like a lot of people will jump on Chase or Jefferson early, especially with how good it was last year for those guys. So I think that to me, he's a really good pick for most people in like super flex around that 5-6 range.
Yeah.
As opposed to going with the wide receivers, in my opinion.
I see Andrew in here saying bummed Burrow got sniped for me. You sniped Andrew in the first round. Joey grabbed him. And then people are not happy that I said roof. Andrew Hall said higher ceiling,
I almost
Simon.
called you out on that.
And Jake said, I've never heard someone call a player ceiling a roof before.
I guess it's the same thing, just on the outside, right?
Yeah, he goes through the ceiling. He doesn't.
That was even higher.
Roof.
Yeah, like the roof is higher. I mean, technically, that's off the chart.
Rushing ups. That's what his rushing adds. It adds the roof.
Yeah.
With just his passing, he's got a ceiling.
Yeah,
he's got a roof.
Let's try. Dale, on the turn here, you grabbed the first running back taken. Redraft. Nice. You decided to go with Christian McCaffrey. Now, I think in Dynasty, I've seen you go Bijan Robinson as the first running back overall, but I'm guessing redraft just changes that entirely.
Well, it changes it somewhat, right? Running backs are a little bit more valuable because I'm less worried about their lifetime value and just focused on this year. So someone like CMC, who's the top talent at his position, even in the first round of a super flex draft, to me, this is a value.
Yeah. You followed it up with a quarterback right after that, Deshaun Watson. Are you expecting that Browns offense to look more cohesive this year? It was pretty rough after week 12 when he came back last season.
Yeah, I do expect it to be more cohesive. I mean, they're just going to have more time, right? So that's going in their favor. They're going to have more time working with Deshaun Watson because Deshaun Watson came in towards the end of that last season. So there really wasn't much time for them to build any sort of cohesion or rapport. And I expect that to be improved this year.
Joey, there was one non-running back, wide receiver quarterback taken in the first round, Travis Kelce.
Yep.
Getting up there in age, but feels like about as safe as a bet as you can make at any position that he's going to be not just good, but dominant. Are you a first round Kelce drafter in redraft?
In redraft, especially outside of Superflex, I think there's a definite argument for him to go number 1 overall. That there's position scarcity with Kelce. He's so much better, even over Andrews. And I love Andrews. I'm about to come on the clock. But in Superflex, I think Shane took him. I think he got a good value. I could see Kelce maybe going 1 or 2 picks earlier, not much earlier than that in Superflex. But I love the pick for Shane.
1 overall for Travis Kelce first overall in a draft, I would be shocked. I don't know.
I've seen it happen a lot.
That's wild.
If it's non-super flex, I can see the logic of doing that.
That's what I'm saying.
Still not. I'm not pulling the trigger. Give me Justin Jefferson or Christian McCaffrey or somebody like that. We got Andrew down here saying Jeremy sounds exactly like the actor Brian Posehn. Have you ever gotten that, Jeremy?
I'll take your word.
This is not the first time I've heard this.
Really?
It's not. That's a little chuckle. There was another show I was on. I believe it was like I-86 Sports, and they had mentioned that. I had no idea who he was, and I had to look it up. And then I got a little chuckle.
Do you agree?
It kind of does. A little bit.
A little bit. Those are the best ones.
But I was really hoping Andrews was going to fall to me at 211. So now I don't know what I'm doing.
I can try to figure it out. Well, Andrew got that little Baltimore stack with Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews to start this one out. Looking pretty sweet, Andrew.
Yes, love the Ravens stack start, even though this isn't best ball. Yeah, I think this. I don't think that matters as much. I think it is a plus in best ball, but it definitely is not negative here.
No. Yeah, whatever. We'll just keep taking Bills. Round 3 is James Cook. It's coming. No.
He said, whatever.
No, I think it's tough at 211. You know what I mean? Like I was looking at Robinson or Eckler Like Barkley, I like, but like I'll take the stack here, especially because you got like 3-2 coming back around. So I'll take it. And I'm not going to buy the off-season not showing up to minicamp BS.
You're not buying that? You don't think it's you don't think there's
Nah.
actual fire there?
I think he's pissed, but you know, I was PO'd watching their play calling too, so I get it.
Do you anticipate?
Hopefully it changes.
Do you think he'll go into the season being all in, or do you anticipate there being potential rockiness in the first part of the season?
I think they'll hash it out. I mean, Josh and Diggs are pretty tight to begin with.
Right.
I think by the time this all comes out, they'll kind of hash it out. I think he probably didn't love the fact of how they kind of wanted to start running the ball more. I think he wants to be involved. They also really didn't help him out as far as scheming anything, you know, like with the way that Brian Dable ran the offense, they could scheme him open a lot easier. And where Ken Dorsey was kind of like, we'll just go win this one-on-one for us. And then it was like teams are double, triple covering him in the second half. And it's tough for any receiver to get past that. So on top of that, I think that Josh was a little bit off from where he was years past, where he kind of, especially with that injury. So like not everything was falling right for him with Diggs that way. So I think there was a little bit of just some animosity. So
that makes sense.
I think that they kind of I think they hash it out enough to kind of, it'll be fine.
I think someone from the NFL texted Stephon Diggs and said, "Hey, it's been a little quiet from you this offseason. Can you stir up some drama?
We need a storyline.
Like, just come on, man. Do it."
Oh, man.
It's a little quiet there in Buffalo. James Cook's still sitting there.
It might be. Yeah. It might have to be either that or Gabe Davis. Right?
I was going to say I saw Gabe Davis.
Where he's going last year, right? No.
Just about.
No, I'm going to go Nick Chubb. I think I was looking at a running back here, and I was really Josh Jacobs, and then you took him on me. So, but I'll go Nick Chubb. I think there's a big year coming from him.
I hate when
I think a little bit pass heavy. I know Jerome Ford's there, some little hype there, but I think Nick Chubb sees his largest workload of his pro career, and I think that's going to be good.
Yeah, Nick Chubb. I agree with you. Give him more work. It's probably a good thing. Interesting little running back run here. There's a Stephon Diggs in the middle with Austin Eckler, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Nick Chubb, and Derrick Henry, all going there at the 2-3 turn. Which is usually where I feel like that next tier of quarterback in Dynasty would be going, where we're talking about like the Bryce Youngs, the Anthony Richardsons, that young but unproven tier. As I was scrolling through here in redraft, this is my first redraft SuperFlex mock of the offseason. It's amazing how quickly it changes those quarterback values. Like even from SuperFlex from Dynasty to redraft within SuperFlex.
Yeah, I think Dynasty to redraft changes it a lot for me. I've always been predicated kind of like in the early parts of like my SuperFlex career, we'll call it. I always like went one early and then waited till later. And I feel like I hold that still in redraft, where in Dynasty, I definitely would have went quarterback, just because like you said, like there's such a premium, and especially in Dynasty with it being SuperFlex, like you can't trade for quarterbacks, at least a good one, without giving up like your entire future. So for me, I really sit there and go early with like the two quarterbacks within the first 3 rounds, if they're there. But once that starts to fall off to that, like, you know, the Kirk Cousins or even that Bryce Young area, it's kind of like, maybe I'll wait a little bit.
I'm with you. That's that exact point where I feel that. We got Scampers down here saying, I feel icky. Jeremy! I'm guessing you sniped that cat down there. And Jake wants to know, why isn't anyone drafted Dalton Kincaid yet? JL?
Great question. It's because his last name is Kincaid.
Wait till 411, Jake.
The pick. 411 could be a lot of the date. You got a while to wait, Jake, and you're not sure which time it's going to go off. Andrew thinks we're going to see a Justin Jefferson Kirk stack, I bet. And on that note, Swamp said, "Oh wait, this is SuperFlex." Well, Swamp, you're going 0 QB, baby.
Whoopsie doopsie.
I was about to say, I'm excited to see what Swamp Team's going to look like, because no one's going to have better receivers than him in this draft. That's just,
I mean, they might work out though. You know, he could go with, you know, like a Kirk Cousins paired with like a Kenny Pickett really late or something. You know, like, that could look really nice.
Yeah. Andrew down here saying wide receiver start is interesting. I've seen it though. Now, if he goes wide receiver, then we're getting crazy. What you gonna do, Swamp?
What you gonna do?
And Tim Downey saying Scampers living my dream with the Tua Waddle stack. Who else you got on that Waddle team? I'm missing it over there. Justin Fields too. Oh, that team is beautiful, Mr. Scampers. I love Justin Fields at that spot in the draft. Looking at this board, I'm looking at the back half of the first round and thinking, if I am in a Superflex redraft league this year, that's probably where I want to be drafting if I have any sort of choice. 7 or on. I love the back half QB value.
Mm-hmm.
Boy. Where do I want to go here?
Well, you grab T. Higgins, your Clemson boy.
Take a player.
I feel like 11, like that 10, 11, 12 is really nice.
Yeah, I don't mind the back of drafts
No.
and dynasty and redraft. I've been liking the spot.
I've always been torn. I always like the middle, but like this back half, I mean, you're getting guys like Watson or Lawrence or Dak Prescott, like, and then you can pair them and you feel okay to go with like a guy like McCaffrey or Hill, like just because like you're still getting a solid quarterback. You're not stuck in that, like the Kirk Cousins or that area, and you still have that value, but you can still go ahead and grab another option.
Yeah, pretty much. There were players at each position at this point in the draft where I took Kirk Cousins that I was comfortable going any position here, which is kind of how I look at these draft positions when I'm evaluating them, is where in the draft am I feeling like, wow, there's something here or there's not something here.
Yeah, and I've had a lot from the early portions, like 1, 2, 1, 3. A lot of my I've had a couple dynasty startups or like restart dynasties with some of my friends and stuff, and I've been at the front half. And once I get done, I kind of feel a little bit about the team. But like you still get that early quarterback, which is nice. But like after the fact, I kind of feel like I was at the back half of runs and stuff like that. So
yeah.
We got JB Cho coming in here. What's up, Cho? Saying what's up, y'all?
Josh, good to see you.
And we got Scampers in here saying I almost never take 2 QBs in the first 3 rounds, trying it out. And Hall saying the same thing. I usually go QB in Superflex because it gets so bad, but I'm curious how this one turns out. That's what this is for. That's what mock drafting is for. You try these things out. You test it out. I never go heavy running back early, and here I am trying it out. We'll see what happens.
I never go Kirk Cousins early, but
you never go Kirk Cousins. How's it taste?
Giving him a whirl around the block.
And so far?
Exactly as I suspected.
How's that Kirk purring, baby?
Very plain.
It's the most plain purr you've ever heard.
I was about to say that I regretted my Anthony Richardson pick because I thought Goff would have made it there, but when Dustin took Goff, I felt a lot better about it.
Well, I'm glad you only had to sit in that. It
was horrible for
less than a
minute. Yeah,
just terrible. Dustin said,
"Scampers." Out of it, though.
I wanted Devonta. Well,
we all did.
Get sniped, baby. Yeah, I was hoping to get Devonta Smith as well. I was sad when AJ Brown was gone with my second pick.
I love the Olave pick by Andrew. Actually, Andrew's team right now on point. Holy cow! Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews, Breece Hall, Chris Olave. That might be my favorite team so far.
If this was Dynasty, that would by far be my favorite team so far, I think. It still might be in redraft, but I don't have as much.
Olave is like the 1 weak point in redraft here, meaning that maybe
Breece Hall's ACL.
Yeah, sure. If he's not healthy, that's definitely going to be a bummer for Andrew.
Oh, are you hoping to get Daniel Jones, Jeremy?
I was surprised he was falling that far. Well, I don't want Aaron Rodgers, so.
Well, while Jeremy's going, we can talk about how much of a Daniel Jones truther he is.
Who, me?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, no, I just think that Daniel Jones is really good value here. Like, I'd prefer him over Cousins, Smith, and Goff. I think that he proved it last year. I think Brian Daboll's system's just really friendly. They're going to be able to scheme a lot of players open. I'm not the biggest guy on Jalen Hyatt, but that's adding a dimension to that team. Wan'Dale Robinson's healthy. Sterling Shepard's back. They've got a lot of, slot receivers, but that's kind of how that offense is predicated, getting the ball out quick and fast to those playmakers. So I think that there's some value there. So
if you need me to pause this, let me know.
Nope, I'm good. I'll just take Keenan Allen.
We got Andrew down here saying drafting for balance, baby. And I like that Keenan Allen pick.
But yeah, I just like Daniel Jones a lot. I think that there's a lot of upside. He showed it in that rushing ability. I mean, he's not going to run all over the yard most weeks, but he can when he's asked to. So I think there's a lot of upside in Daniel Jones, especially if you wait on quarterback.
Yeah, I like that pick because Daniel Jones, while I'm not crazy about his talent, you're right. Like, the situation there is good. I do believe in Brian Dable and that they'll be able to put at least improve that offense from last year to this year. And so I don't think it really has, for me, has as much to do with Daniel Jones as it does the offense he's in. It's getting better.
100%. I agree. And that's why redraft, I'm all in on him. But like Dynasty, way less. Like, even with the contract, I'm still like, eh.
Yeah,
but I redraft. I think that he's really good this year. They're
going to try and make him work, right? Because they just invested in him, so they're going to try. They're going to try so hard to make that seem like a good move.
I am wildly uncomfortable with the team that I'm creating here. Jeremy, you want to switch?
Why Etienne?
Why Etienne? Because
2 running backs.
Is it because you wanted him?
No, I'm just curious. Like, what is your thought process? You already have 2 running backs, and then you went tight end. So to go 3 running backs and then tight end is an interesting decision.
Yeah, I'm close to done with running back in this draft at this point. I may not draft a single other running back at this point. We do have to start 2 running backs and 2 flex in this league alongside 3 wide receivers. All of those positions score the same amount of points, right? Like, just because I put a player in the flex or in the running back slot or in the wide receiver slot, they're starters and they score the same. So at this point in the draft, I am still drafting starters into my roster. That's not to say I always draft starters over bench players, but I'm not as concerned about making sure I have that top tier wide receiver there if I think the running back available is going to score significantly more points, which I liked Travis Etienne more than Deebo Samuel, Calvin Ridley, some of these other players sitting there, just from a who's going to score more points this season perspective. Now, give it next round if a running back sitting there compared to a wide receiver, and even if I have that running back a little bit higher, I might lean wide receiver because I only have so many spots where I can even start running backs.
It's kind of like put you into that strategy. Now you're going straight wide receiver value.
Right. Now I'm gonna take some high upside wide receivers later in this draft. I'm gonna try to find maybe some falling value, some of the ambiguous situations that we're unsure of how they're going to pan out, and just try to load up where I can get 3 startable wide receivers every week between the next 6 players that I draft. We'll see. Not usually how I do it. I usually go heavy wide receiver at the beginning, then play that game with running backs. I generally feel more comfortable identifying and finding running backs like that on the waiver wire at the end of drafts, but we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, my word.
And I think Etienne's a big, I'm not his biggest fan, but I think that he's a big boomer bust type of player. There's some depreciated value, especially in this draft at 412. I feel like a lot of these guys maybe are kind of in that same boat where I am, that I think there's a little bit of concern with Tank Bigsby, and just that offense in general, with now added Ridley as well to that offense. So exactly how that's going to pan out for him. Yeah. So for me, I'm a guy that's not totally in on Etienne. I think that Bigsby steals enough work that makes him kind of like that mid-level RB2, where I think a lot of people think he has that high end upside. So for me, I just feel like I like the pick. I don't think it's bad. And I like that strategy of trying to target those late to mid-round wide receivers. But I've also kind of started to realize that I think that with receiver, even though there is a deeper position, sometimes I feel like the front half of that group is definitely a tier break. Even where I took Cooper, I felt really meh in this area of Cooper, Samuel, Ridley, Hopkins, McLaurin. I don't know, even London, especially for redraft. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but it just kind of feels like a very type of spot to take a pick. So that's why I don't hate going Etienne there.
In Dynasty, I love drafting those guys, the Keenan Allens, the Amari Coopers, because they're going 3-4 rounds later. They legitimately just getting pushed down that board. But I do hear you. You get to this point and it's well, they're exciting. They're good. They have the chance to maybe be that wide receiver 1 if everything goes their way, or a top 12 wide receiver. But there's just it's not as exciting as a Garrett Wilson. You're not hitting that same level of oomph that you are whenever you draft a Jalen Waddle or a Jamar Chase.
It's like we saw Etienne kind of everything go his way last year, and he finishes the RB17, and he's being drafted as the RB12. And with everything like Pope said, like I just can't see Etienne's situation getting better with everything they did.
And that's it. And a lot of people are like, oh,
it's all about value.
He earned or like got that lead role. Like they traded James Robinson because of that. And like my big argument is like, look at what James Robinson did this year. Okay. He gets a contract and doesn't even make training camp. Like maybe it was because the Jaguars realized James Robinson's Achilles injury really took a step out of him and he's going to get his way out the door. They saw an opportunity, traded him to the Jets. And now by default, Etienne had to see that workload as opposed to what they really wanted to give him, which is kind of a split backfield. So obviously there could be a fallout if Bigsby isn't as good as we think he is, but I do think that Bigsby is going to garner enough touches to really limit Etienne's ceiling.
I do think whenever we look at last season, he wasn't the starter for the entire year, and he still finished his RB17. We talk about everything going right. This offense should be better with the maybe the volume or the percentage of the volume is slightly lower, but a full 17 games as the lead starting back in a better offense, I think is what's got me excited. I understand
I get
concerns around Tank Bigsby, but I do think Travis Etienne is a tier above. They will use him to manage his workload, but not necessarily as a complimentary back in my eyes.
The thing that gets me is just like the issue is like the red zone. Like Etienne had plenty of options and was very, very bad in the red zone. So to me, that's where I think Bigsby could make his hay as far as like becoming fantasy relevant or like stealing stuff away from Etienne.
For sure. And
less than like that, less than like the whole workload. I think it's going to be what the workload is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. And Tim with another great point. Dougie P, Mr. Peterson didn't draft Etienne either. It's a rollover from the last coach in there. So could be trouble. He drafted his own guy coming in. And Tim also saying going 0 wide receiver is wild. Yeah, not my usual draft strategy. Not what I like to do.
I was really hoping Dobbins was going to fall to the 6'11".
Are you in on Dobbins this year? I feel like that's a player that no one's hyped about, but you scroll through the list of any projection site and like buried in between a bunch of people with like 130 points, there's J.K. Dobbins sitting at like 180. Like, so all of the websites have him projected for significantly higher than all the backs getting drafted around him, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in on going with J.K. Dobbins. I really liked J.K. Dobbins from the beginning of his career. I thought that there was a lot of potential for him being arguably one of the better fantasy assets of that group. I thought that he could be close to that Jonathan Taylor level. So I was really in on J.K. Dobbins and still have been. I think that Todd Monken's going to open up that offense a lot. And obviously a lot predicates on how healthy his knee actually is. But again, on what was clearly a affected gait in his running style, he still managed a very high, what I think it was 5.7 yards per attempt or 5.6, somewhere in there. So for me, he's just a very effective running back as well as a good run blocking system. Monken opens up that offense a lot more. I think that we see a lot. And there's an old adage that a lot of people say, oh, Jackson vultures his touchdowns, which is completely false. I mean, J.K. Dobbins sees a lot more work in the red zone when he was on the field, especially as a rookie. He finished, I think it was the last 6 games, scoring a rushing touchdown in every game. So they don't really use Jackson near the red zone, which a lot of people, I think, perceive that they do. And I just think that there's a lot of value hidden there in J.K. Dobbins, especially if he sees more than his average of like 30-35% of snap share throughout his career so far. So
that's a great point of Lamar. I feel like people see rushing quarterback and just assume touchdowns vultured. Rushing quarterback, touchdowns vultured.
And it's the complete opposite in Baltimore, which is wild. You would think that they would because of how good he is, but like it is almost completely the opposite. Once they get to the red zone, they kind of go away from him and use him more as a decoy.
Andrew down here saying Swamp playing with fire at QB. Yeah, Swamp has yet to draft a quarterback. I learned it was SuperFlex and said, I'm still rolling with this strategy. But Jeremy just took a second QB in Derek Carr. I was so close to grabbing Derek Carr there, but decided to push my luck on QBs one more round.
Derek Carr pick is a good one. I was contemplating him previously, even as early as or right after Kirk Cousins. I think that area I could see Derek Carr even creeping up into. So it's a nice pick.
Yeah, I think it was and Andrew, I milked it because I was talking. Okay, I got asked a question on the clock. point that up towards the 3.5. But yeah, I do. I was also going back and forth whether I really wanted to take Derek Carr. So, but I do like Derek Carr. I think of what was left, don't want to risk waiting for 8-11. You know, like there's some other teams that need quarterbacks here. I didn't want to end up with, not that Stafford's overly that bad, but I didn't really want to hold out for Stafford or like Lance or, you know, somebody in that grouping potentially, especially in redraft.
I don't know. A team that starts Matthew Stafford could be pretty good, I think.
I mean, they could.
I'm just kidding because I'm about to have to draft Matthew Stafford.
I'm just saying that I think that I just didn't feel like I think Carr's ahead of those guys a little bit. Just I think that the offense in New Orleans, I think they'll be okay. And kind of reverb to his like mid-level QB2s. So I was comfortable a little bit more with him as opposed to risking it with, say, Kyler Murray, who might not play a lot, or if Jordan Love completely tanks, or if what we got from Stafford is where he's at this point in his career. So
we got Andrea in here saying, hi, everyone. What's up, Andrea? Welcome in. And Joey, you've been on a bit of a wide receiver run there. DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Drake London, Christian Watson. How are you feeling about your team so far?
I love my team. I really do. I love that wide receiver depth I got. I feel really great with Austin Eckler is kind of my anchor running back. I love my two running quarterbacks as well. I'm high on Anthony Richardson. I don't want to miss it if he hits. He could be a complete flop, but I want to win. I don't want to come in second place. So I took, for me, what's a top 9 quarterback for me this year.
This may be revealing strategy further down the line, but I'm going to ask anyways. Because your second quarterback in redraft is a guy like Anthony Richardson, someone who's unproven. You even mentioned the possibility that he tanks. Are you more likely to draft a third QB, given that Richardson's your second guy?
Yeah, I'll probably take Matthew Stafford so that some guy after me can't get him.
Completely block Simon out.
That would be a great third quarterback.
Yeah, it would. And he's going around that at that point to where I could get him.
Dale, I love
look where Bryce Young is going compared to Anthony Richardson. Like that value for Shane is really good.
Yeah, 3-4 rounds later.
Yeah.
Down there in Bryce Young. Jeremy, if you had to start one rookie quarterback in redraft this year, all season, which one are you starting?
I'm going to think of my cards here a little bit, but it's CJ Stroud for me. I still think that, to me, I've been on Stroud the entire draft process. I think he is the best quarterback of this group. And I think that dynasty and even in redraft, I think that there's some value there for him. Bryce Young, I'm very concerned about as far as the offense goes. I think we're going to see a ton of Miles Sanders. I don't believe in Jonathan Mingo. So I think that there is pretty much 0 wide receivers there for him to work with. And their best pass catcher is probably arguably Hayden Hurst. So for me, I think that Bryce Young is going to have some issues making that transition as far as a fantasy quarterback goes in year one. Anthony Richardson's obviously that dice roll. I don't believe that Anthony Richardson's going to be Josh Allen. I think that Anthony Richardson's going to have some issues making this transition to the NFL. And I do think Gardner Minshew plays for a good portion of this season. And I don't think that we get what we expect out of Anthony Richardson. And I might eat my words with it, and I'll be the first one to admit it because his potential is definitely the highest of this grouping. But I do think that CJ Stroud is the safer of the group. I do think that he is that Kirk Cousins type of area for fantasy where it's going to be that consistent low level, like top 12 guy. So it's not exciting, but I think that there's safety in that. I do think that arguably his receiver group is the best of that grouping. I just think that Nico Collins hasn't been proven. We haven't seen much from John Mechie, but Tank Dell fits Stroud's style really well. Dalton Schultz is arguably the best tight end from that group. You've got Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary there. So I think that the groups, as far as talent goes around them, are pretty close. Obviously, Richardson's probably ahead with Taylor and Pittman, but with Bryce Young and Stroud, it's very similar to me. So I'm going to take the guy that I think is just the better quarterback in CJ Stroud.
And we got Dustin down here saying Stroud is safer. So he agrees at least about the safety, but maybe not fully in with the upside that you are there, Jeremy. And Dustin also coming in, Joey, maybe throwing a little bit more shade towards Richardson, saying maybe that has more to do with Richardson being overvalued and not Young being undervalued. Though you did say Richardson's your QB9. So based on your rankings, this is not overvalued at all for where you draft.
No, I got him as the QB. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
You're the
8,
worst.
9, 10,
It's a vampire.
11 quarterbacks.
Oh, gross.
That's
This
the
is
second Sesame Street character I've done on the show. 3
I thought it was a
total
vampire.
if you count JL's Kermit the Frog that he does. So we're a very pro Muppet show here.
Why would you get credit for my Kermit the Frog?
I meant as a collective. That's why I said JL's Kermit the Frog as a collective, like FYF3.
I see.
Hey guys, can we go back about, I don't know, 6 rounds?
No.
Simon, I like your team. You're dogging on it. Outside the Etienne pick, I'm excited for your team.
Yeah, I'm not. I just drafted Kenny Pickett.
Well, that was
Hey,
done that.
that's a good pick. I like Kenny Pickett this year. I'll say
Yeah.
that. As a quarterback too, I like Kenny Pickett a lot. I'll say that.
Sam Howell or Kenny Pickett for you?
Me is Pickett.
Pickett.
That's the decision I was making there, JL, as I sat there and stared at those 2 names, neither of which I wanted to be the QB2 on my SuperFlex team. Which one's it
Fair.
going to be? Tiny
Fair.
Hands Pickett or I don't know a name for Howell. Hot Hog
Sam
Howell.
Howell.
I'll keep it going. Why not? The
Harry
Bills
Hog
will-
Howell.
The Bills will determine whether I win this league or not.
I think you just broke Joey's heart a little bit there.
No, I was afraid he's going to take somebody that I wanted.
Are you in on James Cook this year, or is this more of a late round, high upside running back pick?
I'm in on James Cook to an extent. I don't know. He's not going to be an RB1 by any means. I mean, potentially, I guess there's that option. I think that he's a solid running back too. I think that in his limited touches, we obviously saw a ton of efficiency, 5.7 yards per carry. So who's up there? It was near the top. I think he would lead. He led the league in it over 90 yard or over 90 carries. He led the league. If you want to toss Breece Hall in there, which was at 80 carries, he would be second. If you also toss in technically the Cincinnati game that got canceled, he bumps that to 5.8. So again, a guy that was very efficient in his limited touches. And in the games that he saw over 13 touches in a game, he finished as a top 15 PPR option. So for me, I do think that James Cook has a ton of value. I think he's getting his value depreciated by the signings of Damian Harris and Latavius Murray. Cook is a lot better inside runner than people give him credit. And I do think that this Bills team does want to run a bit more. And I think that Cook is going to be that option. I think he sees a majority of the work. Harris will obviously get some of it, but as long as Cook stays true to what he has been in college and what he was in it, limited touches in year 1, I think Cook fends off both Harris and Murray. So I'm set. I think that he's a solid running back too, with higher upside than the guys that are around it. Like I would have taken Javonte there, or like maybe Rachaad White, but Javante's obviously that injury still concerns me. And I think Cook has a higher upside than both White and even Montgomery, another guy that just went, that I think is also a good option. Those were kind of the players I was looking at there. So
I do lean on the Rachaad White side, but what we saw from James Cook was exciting last year. And I know our friend Tim in the chat has been in on James Cook since he got drafted, just waiting maybe for the full opportunity to showcase what we saw in maybe a smaller sample size last year. Joey grabbed Rachaad White, a player I wanted to draft so bad, but given my team, it didn't quite make sense. Joey, Jeremy Down, you're saying he prefers James Cook. I'm going to go for the other homer take, our Buccaneers fan talking about Rachaad White. Why do you prefer Rachaad White over James Cook?
I'd rather have Damian Harris than James Cook. At this point in the draft, when I'm taking a running back, I would rather get the guy that I think is going to be getting the goal line touches, and that's Damian Harris. I don't think James Cook is going to get many of those goal line touches. He didn't last year. I don't see much of that changing. We're 2 seasons away from Damian Harris having 15 touchdowns. And so I think he's going to fill that role for the Bills. It's been one of the most interesting things this offseason is just listening to people that really follow the Bills. I've been listening very closely because I don't really know how to read it. And for me, I just keep going back to Harris on this. So I might change my opinion. I might go Cook later on. But for now, I would just rather have Harris over Cook.
Is there any concern of how bad Rachaad White was like per touch last year and how bad that offensive line was? And now you're losing Brady and you're stuck with Trask and Mayfield in general.
It's a dog poop team, but I feel like he was the best running back left that I had to choose from. That
I got you.
I feel like I can get at that point. There's a running back that I really like that Craig will probably take because he's down there somewhere. Yeah, he'll probably take him at some point. But I know I can get him later. So
Gotcha.
I'm banking on him being there.
You're banking on like White being just a pure volume, kind of like the David Montgomery version of what we've had for years.
I mean, it's
Najee
something
Harris.
similar to what Jamal Williams did last year in Detroit is what
Also
I might
fair.
be envisioning. Not at
Okay.
such a high level, a lower level of that.
Yeah, I get that. That's fair. And like I said, they're right there. Like there was
Mm-hmm.
a thought of going Rachaad White. I was just kind of like, I see a path for Cook being a little bit better. But obviously, like you said, it kind of has to fall right for James Cook.
The Cook Damian Harris debate has been, Joe, you mentioned it, but one of my favorite of this offseason because it does seem like one of the most evenly split. And there's a reason. Look at where these guys are getting drafted. So it makes sense with where they're going. Both of their values are suppressed in what is a high value role in one of the best offenses in the NFL. There's going to be value there. Someone's going to be happy. James Cook drafters, Harris drafters.
And I think what makes it hard too is like the Bills haven't had a running back like Damian Harris in a long time. You know, like they've kind of always had that James Cook undersized runner, and where Damian Harris gives you a little bit more of that power. So it's kind of like, well, what are we going to get? You know what I mean? So
yeah, we got our friend Emily in here. Oh, sorry, Joey, with a question for us. Wanted to know Jordan Love or Kenny Pickett, going back to some of the QB talk earlier. Joey, would you go with Jordan Love or Kenny Pickett if you were Emily?
Before I answer that, please spay and neuter your pets so that we don't have any cats like Scampers ever again in a draft like this. I hope Scampers falls out of his litter box when he's taking a shit today.
Oh,
Scampers,
Ryan.
you're a
Oh my
bad
God,
guy.
that's your baby.
That's the earliest I've seen Samaje Perine go, but I do like that pick.
Yeah.
I also like the Gibson pick right before it, so I was hoping one of those would fall, but
I would rather have Love.
I think I'm
especially Love from a cat in our draft that would not do those types of things to me on stream. That's the kind of love I'm looking for. But also Jordan Love over Kenny Pickett.
Jay, would you go Jordan Love or Kenny Pickett?
I'd go Kenny Pickett over Jordan Love. I have not seen enough from Jordan Love. I haven't seen enough from Kenny Pickett either, but I trust Mike Tomlin a little more.
I was going to say, I have seen enough from Kenny Pickett, and that's why I'm going Jordan Love. But that's probably unfair based on a small sample size from a rookie quarterback. Where are you going, Jeremy? Kenny Pickett or Jordan Love?
I think I'm going to go Kenny Pickett. I think the weapons are a little bit better for Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
I think the offense is a lot better. I think that the Green Bay Packers are going to be struggling for most of the year. I think that Pickett can get better. I think that Pickett is not an exciting player, but I do think that he's a solid top 20 quarterback for fantasy this year. I think he gets a little bit better. I think there's better chemistry between him and Deontay Johnson. I think George Pickens gets used a little bit better. I think he improves. Allen Robinson is a really good third wide receiver. I mean, he's not great where he is, but like he's a good third wide receiver. You've got Freiermuth in the middle. You've got Najee Harris. Like there's a lot of stuff going for Kenny Pickett, whereas Jordan Love is another bunch of rookies around him. I mean, Jaden Reed's going to be highly involved. Christian Watson, we really don't know how good he's going to be. We don't know what Romeo Doubs is going to be. We don't know what Tucker Kraft's going to be. I mean, all you know is Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Like, what is this offense really going to be with Jordan Love? So I'm going to go with the guy that I think is a little bit safer. I think Love could be a real big like bust, quote unquote, for what he's going to be this year.
100% fair. I've been shocked every time I've seen the sportsbook lines for Love passing yards, for Love MVP odds. They are astronomical. So we got Craig down here saying, I'm doing what I can to not just snipe you each draft, Joey, but then coming in and saying, I left Pirine there because I knew someone else would do the deed.
He just had somebody else do the dirty work for him. Going back to my Rachaad White pick, it wasn't just Rachaad White. There was actually somebody I wanted there instead, and that was Freiermuth. But when I looked at the teams following me, all of them except two had tight ends already. So I felt like Freiermuth or Dalton Schultz would fall to me, so I didn't pull the trigger on tight end there. That was another reason that I took White.
Solid reasoning. That's solid reasoning.
That's fair.
Oh, I did not mean to take Gabriel Davis. Okay.
You can back out.
There he is.
Yeah, you can go back. You can fix it. It's okay.
Back it up.
Because I want to take Gabe Davis to complete my Bills trifecta. No, I'm just joking. I'm not really going to take him. But.
I double-clicked George Pickens, and Gabe Davis was right below him. Sorry, that would have just – you can't have
I like
Gabe
the Pickens
Davis.
pick.
Thanks. It's to match my Pickett.
Now take Gabe Davis.
Yeah, that would be funny if he like retakes Gabe Davis. Yeah, no, I feel better now.
I was gonna say I'm looking at this. Maybe Gabe Davis is the pick. No, I'm gonna go with Cortland Sutton here.
Do you ever do that on your turn? If you're on the turn, you take the player that's worse
Earlier, just to make it look like
earlier, just to make the value better.
Well,
Like, I got Sutton in the 11th.
Exactly. I do it the other way. I don't take the worst player first. I take the better player last, which in turn is the same thing. But I like to say I got him in the later round.
Oh man.
So Andrew
This
down
did
here
not
said,
fall how I
love the
wanted it
Davis
to.
pick. Well, it's gone. Hope you hate the Sutton.
Whoops.
Gabriel Davis is back and available, single and ready to mingle.
Ow, ow.
Ooh. Joe, where are you going on your first date with Gabriel Davis?
I think we're gonna go to a steakhouse.
What? Oh, you love steakhouses.
They're my favorite place.
It's the
Mashed
best
potatoes.
date night for a vegetarian.
Best mashed potatoes you'll ever find.
Yo, you're not wrong though.
Man,
Green
I
beans
really
and mashed
don't
potatoes.
know what to do here.
I'm really jealous of your animated
All
avatar.
right, I'm gonna do it. I don't.
Oh,
wanna do
yeah.
it, too.
Good pick.
I didn't want to
Love
do
it.
it. I had to do it.
But you did it.
I love the
Did it.
pick. Joey and I are big fans of Chigaconquo.
Which means he's gonna tank.
I'm just really, I'm really torn on him. But honestly, I don't like anybody right here. To be honest, like
Ouch.
where I'm looking at, like with my like ADP, because I didn't pre-plan this with a queue like smart people do. And I was looking at it, and I just there's other guys I want to take, but I think that I could get him later, so I'm kind of just gonna risk it with Okonkwo. And if he hits, then it's really good. If he busts, I don't really care because it's the 11th round.
I don't set up queues because part of the fun of a draft for me is the chaos
panic.
and tension and the panic. Like I study ahead of time, I prepare. But when that draft hits, I don't want a sheet of paper in front of me. I don't want my players queued up. I want to draft with my heart.
Yeah, I was really content on punting tight end. I just like, again, there's guys that I want later, but I don't want to like draft them in the 11th. So I'll take that. I'll shoot the upside of Okonkwo. If he hits, that's really good. Yeah.
And if he doesn't, you can drop him and grab another tight end from the glob of tight ends on the waiver wire.
Yeah. And I feel like at the 11th, the rest of my positions are filled. So I'm all right.
Mr. Scampers wants to know what Muppet was that? So Joey, not sure what this is referring to, but what Muppet was that?
That was
count.
Rolf. Oh,
Wasn't it the
when I
count?
did it, that was the count. Yeah.
One. I always forget what comes after that though.
Dude.
Also, actually, with the Okonkwo, because they just took him in Njoku, I was thinking David Njoku, but then I was going back to the fact that I already have Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper, and I also have Josh Allen, Diggs, and Cook. That I didn't want to have too many on the same team.
I get
I don't
that.
know if you guys do that, but I was kind of thinking like,
It depends on the team. Like
Yeah.
the Bills, I'll draft infinite Bills. The Texans, like, if we got more than 2 Texans on my team, it's getting risky. Like then your upside is seriously limited. If it's a low upside offense and you're spreading out all the options across your roster. So the Browns, I think, would fall closer to that category than the Bills category.
If you would have taken Debo instead of Cooper, or let's just say that you didn't have the Bills on there, or you took AJ Brown instead of Diggs, it's 2 teams. 1 team I don't mind, but 2, like I agree with you on that.
I feel like Cooper is what really turned me away. It was like having Cooper, like you're really on, like they say they're going to pass more, but it's kind of a low passing volume offense. So it's kind of like
Chubb.
You're hoping one hits, where if you're trying to get both of them to be productive weekly, I feel like that's a lot.
Yeah. The double pass catchers there makes it trickier. Joey, there you go.
Yeah,
Putting your money
I'm
where
here.
your mouth is, grabbing Damian Harris.
Yeah, I did. I grabbed him. I was there and I grabbed him.
Grabbed him.
Mhm.
And Gabriel Davis did end up going 2 picks later. Jeremy, as a Bills fan, Gabriel Davis was like wide receiver 5 in the preseason rankings last year, something preposterous like that. Like it was absurd and was wildly disappointing. But now he's going double-digit rounds. Do you think he's being undervalued as a fantasy option this year?
No, I think he fits where he's probably should be. I kind of was always here. I was not one of those people that thought he was going to explode. I just think obviously watching the Bills regularly and quote unquote being tapped in with them, that I'm not, but I just watch them all the time. So, but I do think that he's kind of one of those boomer bust type of guys. The role that they use him in that offense is kind of that field stretcher. So you'll see those games like against Pittsburgh, where he had, I think, like 3 catches for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, that's kind of his role in this offense. I also do think last year he was missed a lot sometimes by Allen. I think that there were times that he was open and Allen was too locked on other guys. So I do think that there should be a little bit of like positive regression, we'll say, with him. I think he's going to be kind of where he was and kind of where he's always been, with that mid-level wide receiver 3, kind of with a high upside weekly. But I do think that where he's going now seems fair around guys like Pickens, Johnson. Maybe this round, maybe in 11, he's a little bit better. Maybe a little bit later, but like you're talking the same role as like the Batemans or the Flowers or Johnston that we expect to be. Like, you're kind of in that boomer bust type of wide receiver. So where you're getting him here, I think that this is perfect for him. Much higher, I'd probably be out still.
Jill, I love your running back turn here at the end. Some high upside, but serious question mark players. Kendre Miller, probably the one I'm a little bit more excited about, but there was some hype around Rashad Penny prior to DeAndre Swift showing up in town.
Yeah, there was. The Rashad Penny one was more to get a reaction out of you than it was to was for my team. But out of all the running backs on the board, I think that is a good move for my team at this point. I need high upside depth at the running back position since I waited in those middle rounds and didn't go running back. So yeah, Kendre Miller and Rashad Penny are both high risk, high upside for different reasons. But I like them both.
Scampers likes that turn down there. And Andrew saying still no Kincaid. Well. We'll see if he gets drafted. While we're approaching the end of this draft, I did want to remind everybody that tonight, live at 8 p.m. Eastern time, myself, Joey Wright, and Tim Wright will be live for some fantasy football pub trivia here on the Better Sports Network app and on the Front Yard Fantasy YouTube channel. To play along, just download the BSN app and get ready. Start studying your Jurassic Park and NFL facts because we're going to be live at 8 p.m. Eastern time, running through some questions and running through your heart, baby.
Mm-hmm. We were talking earlier, Simon, you said you didn't want to reveal a strategy and about taking Richardson and how I need a safe quarterback. So I'm going to take who I think is probably the safest quarterback in this draft. I'm just kidding. It's not Baker Mayfield. Nice. He's the best one left.
Take him while he's down.
Yeah.
Hey, well, it depends.
He's got a starting job for the first 4 weeks at least.
Depends on what your definition of safe is.
Yeah.
Predictable. I think we're pretty sure what's going to happen with Baker Mayfield this year. It'll be probably a little bit below average to really below average. It'll probably start escalating downward as the season goes on. Also, Craig in here with more like Dalton Cade.
Oh, ho, ho.
Craig.
Good one, Craig. Nailed it. And Craig getting hyped for a trivia tonight with some dinosaurs. You guys better watch out. Craig is the Jurassic Park expert, so he's coming in hot. The person to beat in tonight's game.
Craig might find himself included in the trivia tonight. I'll just leave that there. Just a little teaser.
Why does this look like that T-Rex is farting at the Bronchiosaurus?
And the Bronchiosaurus
is like, oh.
I mean, is he farting or is this like tis the season, right? Is it not dinosaur mating season? I don't know. I've only seen the first Jurassic Park, so
you're gonna have to watch
that. That's not exciting, but
Ryan Tannehill.
I almost went in the last pick. It's a solid pick. This late? Solid
That's
pick.
what I mean. This late, he's my third quarterback in case one gets hurt,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I like Will Levis long term, but I don't think he touches the field this year unless Tannehill gets traded. So,
well, Adam Thielen, the last pick in our draft. That's gonna do it for our draft today, guys. Everybody in the chat who came and hung out with us and came and drafted with us, thank you for taking the time. This is the first redraft of mini redraft mock drafts we got coming up. That is going to be it for us today, though. Huge thanks to our friend Jeremy for taking the time to come on and stream with us. If you are not already following him, go and give him a follow at Popes FFH. Jeremy, this was a ton of fun. I appreciate you coming and mock drafting with us on this one.
Man, Jeremy.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I always have fun on the show, and you guys are all great, so I appreciate it.
Most of us are great. Guys,
you all are great.
That's going to be it for us today. We will see everybody tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time for some fantasy football pub trivia. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday to the best of your ability. And I don't know, eat something, take a nap, take a walk. Adios, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Could you put those sexy dinosaurs?